I had a chance to actually see Civil War on the Tuesday after it came out, but I'm just now deciding to do a review on it because, I've had a chance to let all that venting out, and I'm not going to make it to where it's like a rant rage, especially about certain parts. But I'm just going to go into this review just being completely, well, I'm not going to say rage free, but other than that, I have a different viewpoint after hearing some other reviews as well as talking to my friends about it after seeing it. But I'm going to be honest and just be completely real here. This was not by far a bad movie. This was a great movie. And not to mention that it makes you think leaving the theater. You don't see a lot of superhero movies literally making you think about what's right and wrong and literally making you think about how the protagonists really feel about it. Now, I know that going into this whole thing, the actual marketing plan with this entire movie was choose a side, Team Cap or Team Iron Man. Honestly, there was no side to be chosen, and I love the fact that they emphasized that in this movie. They didn't really make you choose a side and make you show who's right and who's wrong. It showed the viewpoints of both protagonists. It showed you the viewpoint of Steve Rogers, and it showed you the viewpoint of Tony Stark, and why Tony was doing what he was doing, and why Cap felt the way he did. And I love that. I think that was a brilliant, brilliant idea. And we all know that it was that Civil War in the comics is a grand scale. But them scaling it down to where they made it into a Captain America movie, well, pretty much a sequel to Winter Soldier, or maybe a trilogy, I don't know. But the fact that they actually made it a Captain America movie worked. And it didn't really overdo it. Not to mention they made every single character in this movie shine. And they didn't leave anyone out. And that's what I was thinking. Okay, you have so many people in here. Then you have Spider-Man. Will Spider-Man get enough time? Will Black Panther get enough time? And they actually did enough for everybody. And I think they did a great job. I will say this. A lot of people won't know who Crossbones is unless they actually saw Winter Soldier. It took me a minute to remember Crossbones. But I know I had to ask some of my friends about who this guy was. But other than that, they did a great job in making everybody shine. And I'm going to be honest here. The best Spider-Man I ever saw, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but all I know is that he is pretty much the best Spider-Man I have ever seen ever. I love Tobey Maguire. I do. And Andrew Garfield, I guess he was a more snarkier version of Spider-Man. But this guy was a real teenager. I don't remember his name, but for those who remember his name, leave in the comments. But honestly, guys, he acted just like a teenager. And he was new to the whole thing. He was like, oh man, that arm is metal, cool. That's amazing. He was just like staring at Winter Soldier's arm, and it's completely metal. He was like, oh, this arm is metal, cool. I thought that was awesome. I really did. And knowing the fact that this guy is a teenager, he was like in awe of all these guys. He knew about every last one of them. And he just seemed like he was just marking out at Captain America and then just looking at Winter Soldier and was like, oh man. He just felt like he was like in comic book heaven, I guess. But it was just amazing. Black Panther was another character that I was really kind of concerned of how they're going to do him. And they did him well. Oh my gosh, amazing. Seeing his character makes me excited about the standalone that's going to come out next year. And that is the one good thing that you should do when you introduce a new character. You make them excited for their origin story. But here's the amazing part. They made that movie part of his origin story. So now you have an idea on where he comes from and exactly how important he is. So they did a great job with that without overdoing it. And with Vision and Scarlet Witch, I did not really know about their love story until I've heard about it, like in comics. Some people tell me about the comics, that they actually did have a kid and they got married and stuff like that. But seeing how it was starting to come to something was nice. It was a lot better than Hulk and Black Widow. I know at first I didn't mind it, but honestly, it was less awkward with that than it was with this. Like, seriously, it was less awkward. And I enjoyed it. I really did. But here's the one thing that kind of bothered me about the movie. Now, everybody knows that Marvel has issues when developing a strong villain. In this movie, you shouldn't really have had one because the actual papers, the reports that came out and all the damage that the Avengers did, they had to come to terms with the consequences. all that in general technically was the villain, but I wouldn't really say that would be the villain. That's more of a catalyst of kind of making people choose a side. So having Zemo as one of the villains, as a secondary villain, in my opinion, was somewhat unnecessary. From what I've heard from a lot of people that actually read the comic books of the Captain America comic books, has told me that Zemo is a lot more vicious than Red Skull. So it would have been nice to actually see Zemo to be a very vicious villain. Like, they weren't sure whether or not they want to make it more of a revenge thing, or they want to actually make it into something else. And I understand why people make comparisons to Batman v Superman in this, because he did kind of act like Lex Luthor. The only problem is he had a legitimate reason why he would hate these guys, and Lex Luthor did not. He just wanted to see them fight. But yeah, he did do that in the movie, but he had a legitimate reason why he didn't like them. And I was okay with that. But the one thing that bothered me the most is they could have made Zemo an ultimate villain when we found out there was more than one Winter Soldier, and the reason why Tony Stark's parents were killed because they had the 4 serums. So I'm like, okay, you have 4 more Winter Soldiers, plus Bucky, that'll be 5. You have 1 that's awake and 5 that's dormant. Okay, why don't you have your villain wake them up and have them into his own personal henchmen? He already had the Hydra book that had the Hydra code book that had all the codes in it, and all you have to do is just say a phrase and he would instantly turn them into killing machines. So why didn't they have him do that to the remaining 4 that were put to sleep? And it was cool how they had a female Winter Soldier, but honestly, he could have done that and literally became a legitimate threat, a secret threat. And it would have been nice if he was actually a secret threat, and in the next movie they found out who the threat really was. But he capped them all while they were asleep, and then he just wanted to see Tony Stark go up against Iron Man and the Winter Soldier. And I'm just like, come on now. That was a waste of villainy. It could have been an amazing movie, an amazing twist to see him become a really hardcore villain, because that is what Marvel is lacking. You have great superheroes, but mediocre villains. And it would have been great to see him as a hardcore villain. And I actually thought he was working for Hydra, but I wasn't sure who he was working for. And until the very end, you know why he had that phone to his ear. But other than that, I will say that I didn't like the fact that Black Panther decided to grow a conscience just when this guy has killed multiple people. I mean, probably multiple people. And this guy literally should have not been living. Like, he should have been killed. He should have been dead. But he decided to grow a conscience at the last minute. That's the one thing that kind of made me upset about the whole movie. The wasted potential of a good villain. But other than that, guys, this is not a strong 5 for me. In my opinion, it's a strong 4-star. But it's still not a bad movie to watch. I suggest anyone to go and see it again and again and again, because this is the only superhero movie I've ever seen that will literally make you leave the theater thinking about the characters and thinking about the plot as a whole. You don't really see movies like that anymore. But other than that, guys, I want to hear your thoughts about this movie. What did you think about Captain America Civil War? What characters did you not like? What characters did you like? Did you enjoy Ant-Man being in there? Did you enjoy Spider-Man being in there? Who was your favorite character of the movie? And if you had a side to choose, whose side would you pick? I'm just curious. It's Naturegirl 30 signing off. Peace out, y'all. I will see you later.